As I talk more about HighLevel and I sing its praises and talk about its flexibility and all of its different features, the number one question you're all asking me is whether or not you should build your website on WordPress or keep it in WordPress if it's already there, or if you should build it or move it over to HighLevel. I'm going to walk you through what I think are some of the most important things to consider as you weigh that option. And just to give you a little bit more context on my opinion so you can decide whether or not you even care about it, I've been running my own digital agency now for going on a little over 12 years. I've built more websites than I can count, and I currently manage a bunch of different websites. So that does influence my opinion. And another factor for you to take into consideration for total transparency, my own website, Convology.com, is currently on WordPress. But I'm going to give you my honest thoughts. I'm going to tell you what I personally would do or would have done. I'm going to tell you what I would recommend for certain groups of people that you may identify with. And I'm going to hopefully give you enough information to make that decision on your own. All right, let's kick things off. I think the first place we always have to start here is cost. HighLevel on their base plan that you can purchase on your own is $97 a month. And with that gets just about all of the features. There's a few things you don't get unless you're on the $297 plan. And then there's a few things, very few things you don't get unless you're on the $497 plan. I'm on the $497 plan. I offer HighLevel for $50 a month to people that are members of Convology Plus. So also let that weigh into your consideration if you are a member. So for $97, what can you get? Well, the first thing to think about here is web hosting. You do not need a web host. HighLevel is your web host. You can come right into the sites section and you just click this new website button and you can create as many websites as you want. You can assign a brand new domain. I can have convology.com, doug.com, any domain I want. I can build as many websites in my account for $97 a month. That alone is crazy. I spend for my digital agency right now over $500 a month in web hosting. And there are companies that spend tons more than I do. Those savings alone are enough for me to tell anybody who's at the beginning of this journey, strongly consider HighLevel. Now, for everybody else, though, you have to weigh the cost of whether or not moving to HighLevel makes sense for your cost savings. I mentioned that my own website is on WordPress. The reason I haven't moved over to HighLevel just comes down to the fact that I don't have the time or just the desire or energy to move it. My website's really big. I have a lot of posts. There are ways to export. I'm sure HighLevel is in the process of making that even easier. But right now, I just don't have it in me to migrate my site. If I had a team of people, a VA, and I could just get it all done really quickly without having to use a lot of my time, I probably would. But there are other factors for me to personally consider. I have a digital agency. I have servers and I have hundreds of websites that I just couldn't even entertain the idea of moving at this point. However, I will say that currently, whenever I go to build a new website and I start a new website project, the first thing I try to do is put that website in HighLevel. Why? Well, that takes us out of the cost category and into the maintenance category of discussion. I think you're capable of doing all the math calculations that you would need to decide if this is going to be a cost savings for you. On the maintenance side, though, you don't have to worry about plugin vulnerabilities. You don't have to worry about your website getting hacked. You don't have to worry about all the things that you have to manage on WordPress, like PHP versions and all the various things that you would hopefully find in a good host. Granted, I have an amazing WordPress host, so I really don't worry about most of that, but I pay for that. And I pay for that to be a thing for me. For most people, that worry exists. And all of the worry, all of the maintenance, all of that could go away just by using HighLevel. And this isn't unique to HighLevel, by the way. This would be the same if you used Squarespace or Wix or, any of those like SaaS platform website tools. It's conceptually all the same. And before we go any further, I want to address the whole well, I don't own my website, etc. This is 2025. I just don't even give that argument any sort of validity anymore. I used to be a proponent of it. I used to be this whole I used to feel the whole digital sovereignty thing. I just honestly, just being blunt, I think it's a bunch of crap now. You also don't own the server that your website was hosted on unless you do. And then if you do, it's not even a relevant conversation for you. We're going to talk a little bit more about that when we talk about building websites too. But essentially, what is ownership anymore? If you build a website in HighLevel, you're going to have your content, your images, you can export the HTML, you can do all kinds of crazy stuff. You can have an AI look at it and rebuild whatever website you build in a matter of minutes. So I really don't buy the argument anymore of owning your stuff. Plus, with all the plugins you're probably using on WordPress anyway, you probably don't own as much as you think you do, which is a whole other conversation. Now, taking that argument and setting it aside, I think we can move forward with anyone else who wants to stick it out here and talk about the fact that this is just as valid as any other form of website. Now let's start to talk about some of the features and the customization and things like that. Inside of HighLevel, we can start a website from a design, and they're adding designs all the time. My feed is constantly bombarded with all the new designs that they're making for different templates, even beyond just websites, funnels, all that kind of stuff. So here we have, I'll close that sidebar. I'll leave it open. We've got all the different categories that you can really possibly imagine for different website templates, and we can sort these by most recent. I think these were added yesterday. Some of these are beautiful designs, like for the most part, more than most people would be able to make in WordPress, even with a builder. And I'm going to touch on that more in a second here, but these are so good, in fact, that most of my clients that I show these to are more than happy to have this be their website. And that's going to be the case for most businesses. I think you're either going to fall into one or two categories. Category one, you're really caring about building your website, customizing every little facet of it, and you want to be a designer, or you are a designer, or you are a design professional. And I'm going to take that category and split it in two in a second. Or you fall into the other bucket, which is you're fine using a template, you're fine saving time and starting from, an elevated baseline, and then customizing what this is and making it more of your own using the page builder, which I have shown in another video. I'll link that down below in the description, maybe in the card over here, and definitely at the end of the video. Now, if you're in that first bucket where you really care about the design, you're going to be one of two things then. You're going to be the designer, and in the WordPress world, I kind of classify these as like the people who are using bricks, the people who are like designers, web designers, developers. These are the people that are happy to be in CSS all day long, and they're using pseudo classes. And this group of people are probably not even watching this video, because this group of people thinks the very idea of often using page builders or even the block builder in WordPress is ludicrous, and that we're all heathens, right? So there's that group of people. And then there's the other group of people that falls within it, where I personally usually self-identify, which is I like to customize things. I like having control over the way things look, but I'm totally okay using a page builder, right? You're probably going to fall into that category. And good news for you, just like it's good news for me, HighLevel does provide you with quite a bit on the customization side. Now, granted, let's talk about some of those limitations on the customization. I went over most of this in my video where I walked you through the page builder and what HighLevel had to offer. And the pretty much only downside to this is that you are confined and constrained to what the page builder is capable of doing. So just like you'd be confined and constrained to the page builder you're using on WordPress, whether it's Thrive Theme Builder, Spectra, or Bricks, you can only do what the tool can let you do. In the case of Bricks or one of these other tools that gives developers more control, they aren't really constrained by anything, which is why if you identify with that category of saying, well, I want to write all my CSS classes and I want total control and I love starting from a blank page, and like if that's you, you probably won't like the HighLevel builder, just like you wouldn't be happy on most other website SaaS platforms. If you're one of those people that looks at this and says, oh, wow, the way that you've put these 4 columns here, they don't have the flex or the blah, blah, blah. I don't even know the terms, right? But I've seen the YouTube videos and the people that talk about it. If you're one of those people that look at this and say, oh, they've just done all the wrong things in terms of web design, proper best practices, it's probably not the right tool for you. You got to be blunt about it, right? But if you're someone that says, wow, 4 columns with the click of a button, and I can drag and I can nest additional rows and columns inside of those, and wow, look how easy this is for me to build. And oh, if I want to import a design, I can just click a button, go to pre-built sections, find a section that looks good to me, click a button, drag it on my page, and oh, wow, look how easy it is to build a website. If that's you, then the HighLevel page builder, website builder, having your website be in HighLevel versus WordPress is definitely still worth you considering. Now let's talk about plugins, right? Plugins extend the functionality of WordPress beyond what WordPress by itself is capable of doing. I think there are very few people in this world who would use WordPress with no plugins and no themes. Why? Because, well, it's just simply not capable enough. I feel like it's already on the decline because there's so many other tools that are opening up possibilities for people like myself, which I think I kind of represent. I feel like the majority. I feel like I'm in that majority of people that are like, oh, cool, look how easy it is to build a website. This makes it totally easy for me, puts everything in one place, etc. I think most people are looking for those solutions, and we've exited the era of, oh, WordPress is open source and totally free, I can just download a plugin. Like there's still lots of people like that, but for the most part, people are willing to pay a little bit, just like they have been, and we all have been in this era of WordPress where every little thing is nickeled and dimed. On my WordPress website, I have at least 10 things installed that all individually cost me money, and some of which are annual fees. And if I add all those things up, they kind of come close, if not surpass, what I'd be paying for HighLevel. So you just kind of have to make that decision. In terms of functionality, though, HighLevel as a whole ecosystem has a form builder. I can come in here and I can build just about any form that I would want. It has a survey builder, a quiz builder. It has a blog. It has a client portal. It has all these features, including communities and membership sites and automations, and like the list goes on. All of those things people would typically be buying plugins on the WordPress side to extend the functionality of WordPress. All of that's baked in. There's no purchasing anything. There's no having to manage anything. No licensing. It's just all here in HighLevel. What HighLevel doesn't have yet, and I'm going to say yet because even a month after I release this video, this could change given the velocity that they're developing. For the most part, some of the little polish on some of the things that your plugins might add, you may not have inside of HighLevel. Classic example, one of the things I have on my own website, let me bring it up. I love my tutorial section where I can say here, oh, look, I just want to see tutorials for HighLevel. Click a button, beautiful like Ajax load. This is a plugin called WP Grid Builder. I love this plugin because it makes the WordPress post presentation system, in my opinion, beautiful, easy to use. I love it. I don't have this in HighLevel. It's unfortunate. Things similar to it, just like let's say Spectra, right? The page builder that I currently use in WordPress. Spectra has something similar, but it's not as polished. It's not as glossy feeling. I can't quite accomplish everything that I want to in it. So I made the decision to buy the plugin, WP Grid Builder. Well, that's not in HighLevel. So if I went to HighLevel, I'd have to make the conscious decision that, you know what, this amazing presentation that I love, I can't have in HighLevel. So there are going to be those concessions you're going to have to make. And I expect in the future these will be in HighLevel, just like I expect in the future WordPress plugins will develop even more new cool things that may or may not be in HighLevel. So you just have to, again, make that decision and just be okay with it. What you can't be, and I see this a lot, you can't be the person who says, I love these 50 things about HighLevel. Let's say it's cheaper, does everything you need, etc. You start building your website at HighLevel and then you start like nitpicking, right? It's the nitpickers like, oh, but it doesn't have the WP Grid Builder plugin because it's not WordPress, so of course it doesn't. Oh, what do you mean? Oh, it doesn't have this thing, a little thing, or that little thing, or oh, I liked how my navigation worked over here, and oh, I liked how I could customize and such and such. If you're going to be bothered and you're going to be nitpicking every little thing, then moving over to HighLevel might not be good for your personality, right? Again, I'm having to be very blunt. I can't really go about this any other way. I personally don't get bothered by a lot of that stuff. I look more big picture, and I would say to myself, well, I'm going to save $100 a month, and I'm going to be able to push a button, spawn a website in 10 seconds, and be able to then customize it for a client and spend 2 hours building a website instead of 30. I can make those types of decisions and those judgment calls very quickly, and I can say, I'm okay without having WP Grid Builder. I'm okay with that. And oh, they know the community is not quite as nice as, I don't know, insert Thrive Apprentice, for example, right? Like, oh, the community might not be as customizable as Thrive Apprentice. I could customize every little thing in Thrive Apprentice. Yes, Thrive Apprentice has more customization than HighLevel does on like the way the course layout looks, but HighLevel solves for these other 10 to 20 problems that Thrive Apprentice has with respect to hosting, poor database management, and the fact that it hasn't been developed on actively for coming on 2 years, right? So you got to just decide and look big picture. If you're like me, you can look big picture at this and say, oh yeah, that to me, I can reconcile those two things and I can more realistically make a decision between one and the other. And I hope you realize by now, I still don't think one is the clear winner, right? You have to make those calls at each step of this conversation that you're going to have with yourself. So if there is functionality that you're thinking you can't live without in your WordPress website, I encourage you to think about that strongly. You can't live without it. If that's the case, then you can't live without it. Stick where you're at, right? Or go with WordPress. And again, I feel like this is a very different conversation for someone who's like me and has had a website on the platform, let's say for 5 to 10 years, and you're like, moving is just out of the realm of possibility, there you go. You answered your question. But for many of you that watch my channel, many of you that I work with in Convology Plus, you're kind of at the beginning. And so I want this video essay to kind of be geared more towards you if you're going to make the decision that my site's new or I haven't started it yet, where do I want to go? Look for those features and functionality. And if you have any questions, and if you're a member of Convology Plus, post in the community. If not, leave a comment, and if I'm able to, I'll answer it, about whether or not HighLevel has certain functionality that maybe you're saying you can't live without. Now, in terms of analytics, that's another thing I want to tackle. I have recently, in the last couple of years, abandoned Google Analytics entirely. I'm a big fan of Fathom Analytics. I've got a couple of videos here on my channel all about it. I can use Fathom Analytics with HighLevel, but I really don't need to. HighLevel already has really good analytics and really good reporting, and soon HighLevel is actually adding in the ability to track WordPress traffic as well, which I think is really cool for people like me that are still in WordPress. You're going to have the ability to see your page data in HighLevel, which is going to be really, really helpful. But taking it one step further, inside of HighLevel, now I'm in one of the contact records. And we're going to touch on this in a second here about the fact that I edit my website and have my full CRM all in one place. But we're going to take it a step further and say I have full attribution on where my traffic came from, what they did on my funnel or my website, all the pages that they visited. I have a full audit report of literally everything that I personally have found just as useful or more useful than the Google Analytics reporting that I had back when Google Analytics was usable for someone like myself. There's going to be the three buckets this time. There's going to be the analytics data snobs who are like, I do this for a living, I need more data. That group, you're going to install whatever you need to track it anyway. Go ahead and install Google Analytics to your heart's content. There's going to be the people in the middle where I think I am, which is I like data. I like using data, but I don't want to spend an hour trying to figure out tweaking one little piece of data where that hour cost me more than knowing what the data I got from it was going to save me, right? I just want good data that's easy to use. And then there's this third bucket that's like, I don't care about data, in which case conversation is not relevant to you, or I think HighLevel would be a great segue for you to be able to get into understanding data, because you can say, oh, this person came from a Facebook ad. Oh, look at the pages they viewed. Look what they bought. Super easy to see all of that data. I still have a couple more sections that I want to go through, but one of the key sections is the blog section. And I do feel like this is one of the more, I won't call it annoying because I don't think it quite is, but it's a shift in mindset here or something. Because when I'm using WordPress, in the WordPress left sidebar, you have pages and posts. I mean, it's not laid out like that in HighLevel. Very few website builders are, right? Your website itself is under the website section, my homepage, my sales page, etc. Or maybe your sales page is a funnel for all I know. But the blog in HighLevel sits separate and apart from the website. The blog in HighLevel, you would create a blog site. You would give it a name, a title, etc. Let's go ahead and do that now. You would then select a domain. I don't have my baseline Convology one in here because it's currently my WordPress website, but let's pretend it was. I'll just select this one. I could create a slug and I could call this blog or articles or tutorials, whatever I wanted to call it. Or I could literally host my blog on a completely separate domain. You have a lot of control, and that's often where most people get confused with HighLevel. HighLevel gives you more options, not fewer options, and sometimes there's more than one right way to do it. But in this case, you would just select the domain of your website and then give it whatever slug that you want it to have and hit create. Now here's what's cool. You can have more than one blog. Most people are like, wait, what? I don't understand that. In WordPress, you have one blog, right? And you can do behind the scenes stuff to create different post types, but you can have multiple blogs here. I could literally, in one sub account, ignoring the fact that I can have multiple sub accounts in HighLevel, but in one sub account, I could have 50 websites. I could have 50 blogs and just associate each blog with the website it corresponds to. But let's go into my blog site, and you can customize and edit your blog site using the page builder that we've talked about. And this is where I think a lot of people who are very blog heavy in their website usage get slightly hung up. This is where the group of people that say, I want total control over how my blog looks, repeat conversation we just had. Oh, I want total control of how my index looks, repeat conversation we just had. You are going to be constrained by different layouts. There's ways that you can get around some of this, but you can choose things like columns. And I mean, for most people, again, most people having this level of control where I can say, oh, I don't want to show the tags, or maybe I do. Oh, I don't want to show the author. I don't want to show the description, but I do want to show the title, and I don't want to show the publish date, right? For most people, this is totally okay. So most people would say, yeah, this is amazing. Look at this. I clicked a button, I made a blog. And if I go up here to the top, I can go to blog post, and I can customize the way that this blog post looks. And again, for most people, being able to say, oh, I don't want the name of the author, the social to be in there, whatever. For most people, this is totally fine. You need to decide if this is fine for you. But let's say I love this design layout. Okay, so I've customized the way my blog looks. Now I come back to my blog site that I'm in, right? I come back in here, I'll just do this from the beginning, go into my blog. I could have had 50 of them. I'll go into mine and I'll click create blog post. Then it brings up a little window where it looks kind of like honestly, this looks a lot like a Google Doc. You write your blog post in what looks like a Google Doc, already leaps and bounds better than in WordPress, with a caveat. The caveat is, and this for me was a slightly bigger caveat, not so much anymore, because I'll say my strategy has changed, but I want to go into this a little bit more with you. I historically used to take all of my blog posts and use like Thrive Architect and Spectra and like really design them. I stopped doing that when I realized that my own content was more video based and that people weren't going to my blog or tutorials and like reading how things work and looking at a static image. Everyone wanted the video. Everyone wanted my office hours. Everyone wanted like the interaction, the dynamic, or the more visual presentation. So I stopped putting in the effort into blog posts and I started really just putting some words, some bullet points, some summary transcripts, putting my video in, and they performed just as well for me. For other people, I know that crafting a beautiful custom, we'll call it a blog post, is still extremely important. I think you can still do a lot of that here, right? You can put images in, you can put videos in, you can drop in checklists, you can put embed forms, you can do all kinds of really great stuff in here, but you're not going to build this like you were using a page builder. You're not as easily going to drop in, oh, let me put in columns, let me put in, you get what I'm saying? It's not the page builder. So if you're looking for a blog that requires a full-blown page builder when writing your post, at the time of this video, and I would absolutely release a new one if this gets changed, but at the time of this video, that is not the case. You're writing in what looks more like an advanced Google Doc editor. And since I did mention that like my site's been around for 10 years and I have so many posts, etc., they do have a content importer here. So I could create an import and I could say, here's where my blog homepage is, here's where a recent blog post is, and then my website's on WordPress. Like they do have an import option for WordPress, HubSpot, or just about anything else. I can't vouch so much for the results of that. I haven't done a big import. Maybe I should one day and get back to you, but that's the blog site. So the blog sits separate, but I think for 85% of the people out there, this is probably all most people are looking for. I want to talk about how everything in HighLevel feels very cohesive. I've worked with plenty, and I'm currently working with people that are saying, wow, I've got these 10 different tools. Everything's just scattered all over the place. I'm having a hard time bringing in data from one tool, getting a big picture of my business. And I hate the fact that everything's segmented across all these different tools. Can I just make it simpler? If you identify with that, then I think using HighLevel for your website makes a lot of sense. And I kind of want to like clarify this because I'm talking about a lot of stuff that isn't the website in HighLevel. But all of these things make the website in HighLevel even better because the data you get from your website, all of that is already connected. The sales data, the website visitor data, the attribution, the ads manager inside of HighLevel that connects to Facebook and Google, like all of these things, HighLevel knows who your visitors are. The countdown timers, you don't need fancy scripts that track the user across different domains because guess what? It's all in one place. So if you're someone that feels that need to consolidate and you feel the need to have all the tools more streamlined, and I don't think you'd be giving up anything, that group of people, if you're in it, I think considering a website in HighLevel versus WordPress is at least worth evaluating. All right, this is an enormously long video. I'm usually a big fan of the 8 to 10 minute videos, but I couldn't do this conversation justice without at least talking a little bit more about the big picture. Now, if all you really cared about was my like verdict here, would I recommend HighLevel for your website? And this is where I say the last 30 minutes have been super important. I would say for a lot of people, yes, I say HighLevel is a better website experience than WordPress. I think it saves a lot of people money. I think it simplifies the experience for a lot of people where complexity and technical struggles are an issue. It's what I do for a living. I literally help people overcome tech stack challenges. So I see and I'm exposed to tens of thousands of various tiny little problems people have literally every day, every hour. So I know that this solves for a lot of those problems, but it also constrains a lot of things that some people found liberating or find liberating with WordPress. If I were to assign arbitrary percentages, I would say 75% of the people that I work with, and again, I think this is the best way to frame it. I'm not going to speak generally, I'm going to speak from experience. 75% of the people that I work with would be totally fine in HighLevel and would even benefit greatly from being in HighLevel with their website. The other 25%, I think, may find benefit, but would still find just as good benefit outside of the HighLevel website system. Granted, most of that 25% should be using HighLevel for various many other things, and I actually currently fall into that bucket of the 25%. So that's the next question I'm answering is, would I, all things considered, use HighLevel for my own website? If I were starting over today, let's say something catastrophic happened, my website was wiped out, I would build it in HighLevel. I would give up the little polished things that I have because ultimately they don't make a difference. They're just nice. I would put it in HighLevel because of the connectivity. And that's often where I frame a lot of my decision making. It's why I use certain tools in my tech stack, is for the connectivity. That's an important thing to me, right? I've talked about how I would rather pay a little bit more or make a little less money, but have a simpler tech stack. I like efficiency, streamlining, and simplicity. I like everything being in one place now. I have over the years, and this is the third thing I want to talk about now, I have over the years talked about the importance of modularity, if that's even a word, keeping your business modular and agile. This goes back to that conversation we were having towards the beginning of this video when I was talking about this idea of digital sovereignty and owning your stuff. I don't come at it from that angle. I rarely do. I come at it more from the idea of like having control over keeping things separate enough so that, like, let's say this, you decide you don't want to use this for your community, you can move to this tool, etc. The flexibility to change tools. I still think you have that with HighLevel. I like that HighLevel still feels flexible, but it's not as flexible as using 5 different tools if you're just using one tool in HighLevel. So this kind of breaks with some of how I've thought over the past, let's say, 5 years. And I think that's okay because I think my opinion is changing. And I'm going to asterisk that by saying it's changing kinda. 5 years ago, the question I would get a lot is, should I use Kajabi instead of WordPress and Thrive Apprentice, let's say? 5 years ago, my answer would absolutely have been, no, don't use Kajabi. Use this instead, WordPress, Thrive Apprentice. But in 2025, when I've made this video here, that answer is different. We are very much in a different world now. And I think today I would say, I think HighLevel, I would still say Kajabi is the wrong choice, but I think HighLevel is a perfectly great choice to build a website and a perfectly great choice to manage most of your entire tech stack. And I think it's okay to put all your eggs in one basket and give up some of that modularity for the benefit, cost, feature, functionality, simplicity, all of that. I think there's the benefit there for you. So hopefully some of my insights and a lot of this talking has been helpful to you. I think this is one of those topics that we just have to talk through, and it's going to be different for each individual person, where we identify our can't live withouts, nice to haves, cost savings, etc. But all right, that's it. I'll close just by saying we're living in a great time when we can even have this conversation. This was not the case 5 years ago. So I'm happy, and I'm looking forward to the future when there are plenty more options other than WordPress out there to build our websites and have a lot more choice over our tech stack.